Alright guys, well, here I am coming at you with my Star Trek double feature. This one is me reviewing Star Trek Into Darkness, and it's also going to have my top 5 favorite Star Trek films. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started with the Into Darkness. This movie, if you didn't know, is a sequel to J.J. Abrams' 2009 reboot of Star Trek, and it's more based upon like the original series. This is like, the original crew, and it's just, the first one was such a brilliant film. I gave it like a 4 out of 4 star review. I was like, it can't get any better than this. So I went and saw Star Trek Into Darkness, which is about Captain Kirk and Spock and the Enterprise crew who are actually going after a villain that is so insane that he's blowing up stuff all over the place. He's a terrorist, and he actually comes from within the organization of Starfleet. That's all I'm going to give away. But going into this film, my expectations were high. I thought it was going to be a very fun film, exhilarating, just, edge of your seat. What I got was all my expectations were met, plus so much more. I loved this film so much. It was so fun. The graphics were amazing. It was a perfect this is how CGI should be done. It was brilliant. I mean, it was a really brilliant looking visual film. And the story is amazing. It's very original, but then it's also pays homage to like the original series in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of things that come up that you're like, man, this is so amazing how Abrams is like, kind of keeping it in the spirit of Star Trek, the original series and stuff as we know it. And it was such a brilliant film. The actors, Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Simon Pegg, you got Carl Urban, forgot her name. I'm sure Zoe Saldana, and also a great performance by Alice Eve. And I just got a text message, so that's what that vibration was that you just heard. Well, let's just say that all the acting was brilliant. They really went into their characters. They came in and, they are definitely settled in their characters. Now, the scene stealer is the villain, John Harrison, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, who is brilliant. I've always loved Benedict Cumberbatch. I've been a fan of Sherlock for, a few years now. Loved him in War Horse, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. He's just always been one of my favorite actors, and I knew he was eventually going to blow up. And I think he finally is starting to blow up. Sorry, I haven't been feeling this, and my voice is kind of, it might give out sometimes. But he stole the show, in my opinion. It's going to be sad because he's not going to probably be Oscar nominated because it's a sci-fi film, and they usually don't get nominated for acting and that kind of stuff. But I liked his performance as a villain better than Heath Ledger as Joker. And I know that's blasphemy to say to a lot of people, but I'm just being honest with you. As much as I love the Joker, he's been like my main villain that I've loved for like years now, since The Dark Knight came out. And nothing has been matched up until this movie with Benedict Cumberbatch. Brilliant intensity and anger that comes from his character. And it's just such an amazing film. Very heartfelt at parts. And you really, like I said, start to feel these characters and know their emotions. Everything from like what they were wearing, was it kind of a throwback to the original series. Like the yellow, Kirk wearing the yellow Starfleet, and then, Spock wearing the blue Starfleet, plain uniform. And it was just so awesome. It was a fun movie, intense, fun, some funny parts at the same time, and it was just a really good time at the movies, and I loved every single second of it. I give the movie an A+, 4 out of 4 star rating. Do I like it better than the 2009 film, which I loved so much and thought it was an amazing movie? Yes, I do. I actually do like it better, and I recommend everybody go see it. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great movie. Let's go ahead and head into the top 5. Let me get out of this text message that was opened up. Alright. My number 5 film that I love, this is my top 5 Star Trek films. Number 5 is Star Trek The Voyage Home, aka The One with the Whales. Such an amazingly funny and great sci-fi film. You know, they come back. It's kind of like one of those fish out of water stories, I guess you could say. You know, the Enterprise crew come to present day at the time, present day San Francisco, and you know they're interacting with culture, and you know it's just such a funny film. And parts of it, I mean, it's not like a comedy, but it's lighthearted and fun. Meanwhile, they're trying to save the Earth. And it has a lot of whales in it, but I don't want to give a lot of the plot away because I want you guys to see these movies fresh if you haven't, because I know a lot of people haven't really gotten into Star Trek yet, and I just think it's such a brilliant franchise. Number 4, this is probably one that you guys are going to say, really? It is Star Trek The Motion Picture. It was a movie that was disappointing when it came out, you know, critically, but I love it. A lot of people say it's long and boring. I actually like the long and boring parts. It's very 2001-like. I'm not comparing this film to 2001 in that way, so don't start leaving comments saying, how dare you say it's like Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece. Stanley Kubrick has pretty much been one of my favorite directors for years. I'm not saying it's 2001, I'm just saying that style of filmmaking, sci-fi-wise, is amazing, and I love it. I even love the story. I love the villain, I guess you could say. I just love it so much, and I will always love it. Just, you know, the one that I prefer, though, is the Director's Edition, and that's the one that I have on DVD. It's the definitive Director's Edition. Number 3 is Star Trek Into Darkness. Yes, it made it on the list, and since I just talked about it, I'm not really going to go all into it, but like I said, you got to see it. It's a great, fun Star Trek film. Number 2 is Star Trek First Contact. I didn't see this for the first time until a couple years ago, and I don't know why. This was the one Star Trek film that I just never got around to seeing, and it ended up being one of my favorites. I mean, I was so into this film. I grew up watching The Next Generation, and I just loved it so much, and this was the only movie out of the Next Generation films I just never saw, and it ended up being one of the best movies. The music is beautiful, the story is amazing. You know, they go back in time because the Borg is trying to, you know, change the timeline, take over the Earth, and it has that little backstory that deals with the Best of Both Worlds episode of, you know, The Next Generation, where Picard is assimilated by the Borg, and it's just such an amazing backstory. They go to the guy that, you know, basically helped establish First Contact, and it's just a really fun movie. It doesn't always take place in space. The action scenes are amazing, but it has a very human, non-sci-fi feel to it too, and it's just a really underrated movie. It was critically acclaimed when it came out, and it did gross a lot of money, but I mean underrated as it should be up there with some of the best sci-fi films, in my opinion, of all time. Number 2 is Star Trek The Wrath of Khan. Khan! I don't really need to go much more in depth into this film. It's a sequel off of an episode of Star Trek, the original series, called Space Seed. This has Khan coming back to wreak havoc and get revenge on the Enterprise, mainly Kirk, for sending him to, what was the planet? Ceti Alpha 5, I think he sent him to that planet, and something happened, and then it ended up being like a famine and all this stuff, and all this, you know, I don't really need to get into that, but he just wants revenge. Meanwhile, there's a cool story on the side about how Kirk is starting to feel old, and you know, there's these little things about, you know, he's an old man, he's training a new crew, and it's just a brilliant film, and it's always going to be one of my favorites. Some of the special effects is still good. It's dated, but it's still good, and it's just overall a very fun, classic Star Trek movie, and, you know, I can't say enough about it. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys in the next video.